Did you watch last night's joint address to Congress? I did, so you wouldn't have to. It was a total fucking debacle. The Democrats acted shamefully, sitting there quietly with little auction paddles like they were bidding on the president's lies. Texas Representative Al Green was forcibly removed for early disruptions, and not one Democrat stood up to get his back. It was downright fucking pathetic. On Saturday, I saw a post on Blue Sky from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asking for opinions of what Democrats should do for the address, and I told her to boycott that shit. I wrote posts to every representative and senator I could find on Blue Sky asking them not to attend. Finally, I had to email my personal representative, who is not on Blue Sky yet. AOC didn't attend, but as far as I know, everyone else did. So the next time you want to prove me right, let's not do it the hard way. A half-empty room would have actually made a statement. Since they did show up, they should have followed Al Green's lead and did something, sang Kumbaya until the sergeant at arms had to drag every single representative and senator out one by one. They should have shut that shit down. Instead, they sat there in a cloud of Trump's verbal fart stench, looking stupid, because at the first sign of resistance, the Republicans jumped up and pumped their fists, chanting USA, USA, like they were watching President Hacksaw Jim Duggan at a WWF event in the 80s. Resistance didn't work. It's time for rebellion. I got some truth to tell. Let's do this. Tough guy. Ho! So let's get to what the media said about that shamefully pathetic display before I go off some more. But first, according to the White House, President Donald J. Trump's address to a joint session of Congress last night was widely acclaimed. Wildly would be more like it, though. As among his best, in which he touted his record accomplishments after just 6 weeks in office and laid out his compelling vision for 4 years of peace, strength, and prosperity for all Americans. And just to reiterate that this is hypocritical bullshit, and anyone who's taken Fascism 101 can see right through it. His peace plans include taking Panama, Greenland, and Canada by force, and his prosperity plan for all Americans is giving all of our tax money to his oligarchs, while the rest of us drown in tariff-induced inflation and national debt, waiting for the shit to trickle down again like it's never done before in 45 years of Republican fiscal insanity. I mean, how many times have we done this tax cut trickle down bullshit over and over and over? I wish I could be delusional enough to enjoy poverty. According to Robert Mackey of The Guardian, Donald Trump's marathon address to the joint session of Congress on Tuesday was littered with false claims, many of them falsehoods he has previously stated, been corrected on, and continued to repeat regardless. Because repeat the lie till they believe it is right out of the book of Goebbels. Here are some of the main statements he made that are just not true. The president repeated one of his new favorite lies, that the United States has given Ukraine $350 billion since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, and Europe has given just $100 billion. In fact, as Jacob Krupa and Pajotr Sauer reported for The Guardian last month, a running tally kept by the Kiel Institute for the World Economy shows that the U.S. has spent about $120 billion, while Europe counted as the sum of the EU and individual member states, has allocated nearly $138 billion in help for Ukraine. When the contributions from non-EU countries like the UK are included, Europe's share is even larger. One in a litany of spending on foreign aid projects that Trump presented as ridiculous was $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. There is no evidence that any such scholarships were planned. As former Representative Tom Malinowski pointed out, when this claim was first made by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, this appears to be a reference to a very different program, USAID's Lincoln Scholarships, which helped educate young people struggling for freedom against Burma's military dictatorship. Trump drew attention to the fact that a Social Security Administration database includes millions of people who would be over 110 years old. But as The Guardian has reported previously, when Musk claimed that, quote, a cursory examination of Social Security, end quote, showed that we've got people in there that are 150 years old, this is a deeply misleading way of talking about a real flaw in the Social Security system, which could enable fraud, but apparently does not. That flaw was revealed in a 2015 report by the independent inspector general for the Social Security Administration, who discovered that the agency did not have death records for millions of people who had passed away. As of 2015, the inspector general found there were approximately 6.5 million number holders age 112 or older who did not have death information on their files. When the report was issued in 2015, the oldest person with a Social Security number and no death record on their file was born in 1869, but there was no record of payments still being paid to that person, who would have been nearly 150. In fact, the Social Security Administration already has in place a procedure to conduct interviews with anyone who reaches the age of 100 to verify that they are alive and their account is not being used by someone else to collect fraudulent payments. Trump said that January Littlejohn, a mother from Tallahassee, Florida, had discovered that her 13-year-old child's middle school had secretly socially transitioned her from female to non-binary without notifying the parents. While Littlejohn made that case in a lawsuit, the suit was dismissed by a federal judge, and emails obtained by the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper showed that Littlejohn had written to the school in 2020 to notify a teacher that her child wanted to change pronouns. The emails showed that Littlejohn worked with a teacher to determine how best to navigate the situation and thanked the teacher for their help. Since the start of its work, Musk's Department of Government Efficiency initiative has repeatedly claimed to have uncovered fraud, only to have examples of it cited turn out to be incorrect or invented. The most eye-catching example that the government planned to spend $50 million to send condoms to Gaza turned out to be completely fictional. As the New York Times reported on Monday, receipts posted online by Musk's Doge document less than $9 billion in savings from canceled government contracts, none of which involved fraud. According to Lucy Gilder, Jake Horton, and Ben Chew of BBC, Trump said he inherited an economic catastrophe from Biden, and this is misleading. The U.S. economy was growing at an annual rate of 2.3% in the final quarter of 2024 under the previous administration. It expanded by 2.8% over 2024 as a whole, according to official U.S. statistics. The International Monetary Fund estimates that the U.S. growth rate in 2024 was faster than any other nation in the G7. Trump went on to blame Biden for egg prices, claiming that he let the eggs get out of control. Prices are high, but this has been linked to a bird flu outbreak in the U.S. The USDA has said a bird flu outbreak has led to the U.S. farmers having to kill millions of chickens, creating egg shortages, and has announced a $1 billion plan to help combat the issue. The outbreak started in February 2022, and last year the Biden administration allocated more than $800 million to tackle it. The Trump cabal recently fired several USDA officials who worked on the government's response to bird flu as part of a cost-cutting measures by DOGE. They are now reportedly attempting to rehire some of them. Trump claimed, quote, over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. There is no evidence for a figure that high. A report published by the Office of Homeland Security last year estimated the number of illegal immigrants living in the U.S. as of January 2022 at 11 million. It says about a fifth of them arrived in 2010 or later, but the majority arrived before this time, some as early as the 1980s. There was no mention of Russia or Ukraine until the very end, after I'd lost focus and he'd just become background noise to my schizophrenic rage fantasies. He showed off Zelensky's letter of capitulation, conformity, and potential surrender. I also didn't hear Ukraine or Russia mentioned in Alyssa Slotkin's Democratic response, or Chuck Schumer's appearance on Morning Joe's horror show. Don't let the small picture issues distract you from the big picture. The elephant in the room is making out with a giant Russian bear right in front of us. What's worse than the lies is the truth he told, using inflammatory, provocative adjectives to describe humanitarian aid, government protections, federal workers, climate change initiatives. He called the World Health Organization corrupt and the UN Human Rights Council anti-American. He'd originally called it anti-Semitic when he pulled us out of it the day he stood next to Netanyahu and claimed ownership of Gaza. The entire episode was Putin porn, and it disgusts me. I need a break, but I ain't done yet. Texas Representative Al Green is facing possible censure from the House Freedom Caucus, the same congressional clowns that hooted and hollered like jungle animals in a Tarzan movie during each of Biden's State of the Union addresses to Congress. According to Lisa Mascaro of the AP, Green's outburst came at the start of President Donald Trump's speech to Congress and immediately set the tone. The night was already uneasy. Stone-faced Democrats, now the minority party, had been sitting silently on one side of the chamber, rambunctious Republicans on the other. As Green rose to speak, shaking his walking cane at the president, the Republicans drowned him out with chants of USA, USA. Johnson eyed the situation from his perch on the dais behind Trump, appearing hesitant to interrupt the president's address. The speaker was shaking his head and clearly desiring decorum in the chamber. Vice President J.D. Vance motioned with his thumb to throw Green out. The speaker issued a warning for order, banging the gavel and demanding that Green sit down, but the long-serving congressman remained standing. And then Johnson ordered the sergeant-at-arms to restore order by removing Green from the chamber. Rarely has a lawmaker been so swiftly and severely disciplined for improper behavior. Johnson said afterward that Green should be censured among the more severe reprimands that his colleagues could dish out. In past years, several lawmakers have raised their voices to shout at the presidents, from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert's incessant heckling of Joe Biden to the "you lie" outburst from Joe Wilson against President Barack Obama. Of course, during Trump's first term, then Speaker Nancy Pelosi did not raise her voice, but silently ripped up the president's speech on the dais once he'd finished delivering it, a move that so offended the pearl-clutching Republicans they wanted her brought up on charges for destroying government property. Green said afterward it was worth it to make his point, even if he is punished by House leaders. Green told reporters, quote, the president was saying he had a mandate, and I was making it clear that he had no mandate to cut Medicaid. It's worth it to let people know that there are some of us out who are going to stand up against this president, end quote. Green warned Tuesday against Republican efforts in their budget proposal to change Medicaid, which is the program he said many people in his Houston area district rely on for health care. He also warned against cuts to Medicare, the program for seniors, and the Social Security retirement program. Quote, this is about the people being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and health care is about to become wealth care, and we can't let that happen, end quote. Green has been a pivotal lawmaker since he was first elected to Congress in 2004, often standing as he did Tuesday night alone. He introduced articles of impeachment against Trump in 2017, maneuvering around party leadership, and he did it again in 2019, shortly before the House led by Pelosi actually did move forward with separate impeachment proceedings over Trump withholding funding for Ukraine as it battled Russia. Green has said he is working on new articles of impeachment against Trump. Green said, quote, this president is unfit. He should not hold the office, end quote. According to Ashley Fields at The Hill, Democratic strategist David Axelrod described Representative Al Green's outburst at President Trump's address to Congress as despicable. I think what Al Green did was despicable. I like Alyssa Slotkin's speech. I think that's where Democrats should go, Axelrod said Tuesday during a CNN appearance. Now let's talk about where I think Democrats should go. It's hard to not to stoop to the Republicans' level and just play obstructionist and let the Republicans crash and burn. They've proven repeatedly that they can't govern on a good day, let alone in a crisis that they're about to cause. However, they have no interest in governing or doing the right thing for American people. They just want to cause the crisis. And the more we let them burn, the more we'll have to rebuild from scratch later, if democracy survives, and there actually will be a next time. There's a government shutdown looming, and I don't know where to stand. The one thing I'm positive about is that someone should have had Al Green's back. After a series of explosive town hall meetings in Republican districts the past 2 weekends, Scooter Johnson and the National Republican Congressional Committee have told their members to stop having them. According to Lisa Mascaro with the AP, House Scooter Mike Johnson is encouraging Republican lawmakers to skip town halls that have been filled with protesters decrying the Trump's cabal's slashing of federal government, echoing the president's claims that demonstrations are fueled by professional protesters. Johnson said at a news conference, quote, we've seen this movie before. They're professional protesters, so why would we give them a forum to do that right now, end quote. Johnson was repeating President Donald Trump's claim posted on social media Monday that paid troublemakers are filling the GOP town halls, to which the House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries responded, quote, we don't need paid protesters, the American people are with us, end quote. Republicans are feeling the heat back home. Republican Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas was confronted over the weekend by spirited residents questioning him about the firings of veterans from federal workforce. Marshall, too, echoed the claims of paid protesters. Quote, can confirm, end quote, Marshall posted alongside Trump's comment. They're running away from people because they know how badly people have been hurt by what they're doing, end quote, said Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. Representative Greg Kasar of Texas and the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus said, quote, I think many House Republicans have to make a choice about whether they want to fulfill their job title as representative, where they can have a town hall and actually speak honestly to their constituents, or whether they want to change their job title to Elon Musk employee. My representative is having a town hall tomorrow, and I want to know why no one stood up to get Al Green's back. Then I want to know what she's doing to fight fascism and protect us protect us and Ukraine from the Russians. I understand that 99% of the time, the economy is what's most important. Most people live paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make enough money to survive in their daily life. It's hard to save up for an emergency, let alone retirement. At the moment, democracy's at stake. Project 2025 is a plan to destroy it in 6 months. It only took Hitler less than two. People who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And the rest of us are getting sick of these tired ass horror sequels to a goddamn movie no one liked in the first place. I feel like I'm trapped in fascist Destination 8. So, thank you for watching. If you speak the truth, you're always right. Dos Vidania.